Expansion and contraction. This is how, on a flat Earth thesis, the sun and the moon move as far as the winter solstice and the summer solstice, okay? So think of expansion and contraction. Anybody has worked with steel knows when you cool things down, they do certain things to versus when you heat things up. The same thing as if you pop open your thermostat in your home, you'll see a little bitty winding piece of steel that then knocks a little gauge, or sometimes it's mercury, and that triggers the your cooling system to either turn on or turn off. Anyways, I don't want to be too basic here, but I want you to kind of understand expansion and contraction, okay? So here's the sun, and I know this is very simplistic, but that's the only way I can show it. This is basically the equator of a flat Earth. It would be the same equator pattern that we have on a spherical Earth. When it's at this point, the ice on the ice ring that surrounds the planet, or the Earth, not the planet, so to speak, well, the planet, I guess, it begins to melt. This begins to grow. The North Pole begins to get more ice. That then starts pulling the sun towards it, right? As the top of the polar ice caps begin to melt and the poor little polar bears have to drown, this ice then builds up. That then begins to pull the sun back. It also has a combination of different spots, as it being more of a flat disk, which I'm not going to call it a flat disk, but I have to in this demonstration because people don't quite get it. Flat disk could be, 1,000,000 feet thick. Who knows? Who cares? It's irrelevant. The issue is that once it begins to heat up in the center, just like when you're cooking, if you want things not to cook so much and be so well done, you put them on the edge versus you put them in the middle. But the same thing applies to the sun and the moon. When they begin to get too hot in the center, they begin to go on the outer region. Of course, once they get to this position, it being cold and it being and melting, right? Now this area becomes hot. This area becomes cool. So it works on both scenarios, versus heat and versus it being colder, meaning expanding and contracting. It's not the Earth necessarily expanding, though I do believe the Earth, the width is expanding, and it will continue to expand. However, I do think it plays a massive role in the summer solstice and the winter solstice, meaning moving the sun back and forth. Because there's too many people that I listen to. I don't know them, and I have to view things from a scientific standpoint and from an intellectual standpoint. That when they talk, do they make sense, versus when they talk, they're kind of talking out of their rear end. So nobody knows why the sun is what the sun is, and where it gets its heat, and how it's been burning for so-called billions of years and hasn't burned itself out. So obviously it's more than what we think it is. From a biblical standpoint, it's what God created. He set it for a certain time. But for the essence of it moving back and forth, being that this whole thing is better tuned than a fine Swiss watch, it still works on the same principle as a watch. Still works on the same principle as expansion and contraction. And that's how you get it. It has nothing to do with gravity. It's all about expanding and contracting as far as the sun and the moon are concerned. Thus, being that I'm pretty sure just as we only see one side of the moon, we only see one side of the sun. It's Malachi signing out, giving you stuff to think about. Yeah, spread it like wildfire. I've never heard anybody talk about this, but then again, I'm smarter than most people. Talk at you later.
My people are slaves. 430 years have gone. Still they seem to carry on the ways that made them slave. My people are slaves. I sent Moses to free the land, to take them from Pharaoh's hand. But they run right back as slaves. My people are slaves. I bring them freedom they don't understand. They need laws to comprehend, to make them back as slaves. My people are slaves. My people are slaves, going back to what they've known, to worship gods without a throne in the kingdom I have made. My people are slaves, knowing to the love I give, the freedom that comes within. So that's eternal flame. My people are slaves. My people are slaves. They don't understand the love I give, the freedom that comes within, taking hold of the name.